Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you join us this morning for our virtual coffee hour. I have the Provost, Mike Mathias, Vice Presidents Wyden and Travis joining me as well. And I guess happy Friday. We're getting close to the end of the semester. I want to thank everybody for their efforts. And I want to do, before we get started, a quick shout out to SGA. I want to thank them for their thoughtful and proactive actions in communicating a letter to the governor asking for a testing site in Allegheny County. I don't know how it played into the decision the governor made, but I hope people noticed yesterday his comment that her statement that we will have a testing site in Allegheny County that will allow people to get free tests. And then we set up, I guess, at the Allegheny County Fairgrounds. So that's good news for the area. As you know, we continue to see an increase out here in Garrett, Allegheny counties, and quite frankly in the region, including some areas of West Virginia and Pennsylvania. So again, thanks to the students, student leadership, for approaching that in such a positive and respectful fashion and thoughtful fashion. And I hope that played part of a role in helping the governor decide that we needed a testing site out here. So let's get into some questions. I'm going to answer a few quickly here that were forwarded to me from Jay Hegeman from the Staff Senate, and then we'll go into the questions that people are posting. First of all, the question is the 2% COLA raise that has been talked about still on the, still possible? And Leon, do you want to answer that?
Well, as far as we know, the 2% is still on the table. The system and the governor has not pulled that back yet. So as far as we know, and everyone at the system, all the institutions are asking that question, is the 2% still going to happen? And right now, as far as we know, I mean, no one has retracted that. So it is still on the table. And as far as we know, it is moving forward. And if that should change, because state revenues change or whatever decision Governor Hogan decides to make about it, we'll let you guys know.
Thanks, Leon. Another question came up about the fact that somebody reported that they thought there were offices for student services or for students and faculty and staff that are not open on campus. I'd appreciate an email if that person or people want to send it to me as to what offices we're talking about. We're walking sort of a fine line here between, I shouldn't say fine line, but we're encouraging, consistent with the governor's request, that people telework where possible, and yet in order to reduce the social density on campus, we're giving a number of people the opportunity to work from home and do telework, yet at the same time, we do want to staff the offices. So if we are falling down and we're not providing student support services or services to faculty and staff that we should, I'd like to know which offices they are so that I can then talk with the respective vice presidents to address those concerns. I appreciate you coming forward because I think it's important that we do as much as we can in terms of helping the community here that needs help in face-to-face interactions or calling offices. But I don't know what specific offices, if they're academic offices, if they're student support offices, if they're student affairs, in administration and finance. So if somebody would just send me an email, and you can send it to president@frostburg.edu, I can then address that specifically with the vice presidents and have them take a look at the work schedules that they have set up right now for the semester. One question came up too about wastewater. Wanted to see the wastewater results, and I'm going to put that up real quick. I sent a I sent a sheet this morning to all three governance units. I sent one to Jay, to Ben Norris in the Faculty Senate, and Noah DeMichael. This can be shared. Here are the data that we have. We've had, I think, 6 or 7, I said 7 testing periods now across the semester of the wastewater. We take samples every Monday morning, and it comes up with a report of how many, the results are in terms of how much of the virus, in terms of genetic copies of the virus, are found per 100 milliliters of wastewater. Here are the results. You can see them, they're there. We had a spike the week of October 19, and it's since returned back to levels that we saw going back into September and October. I don't know what caused the spike in October, the week of October 19th, but that is the week when we started seeing an increase in the virus on the campus as well. I will share that we do correlate these data with our positivity rate of FSU administered tests. That correlation is 0.97. So we're finding some very good concordance or agreement here between our FSU administered tests here on campus and the wastewater test, which is good for us. It confirms that the numbers we're seeing are consistent, and this becomes a good measure for us. For instance, we'll be continuing this testing through December and January, when we will not be doing surveillance testing, because obviously students will be gone from campus, and we'll be able to then keep monitoring what the virus looks like on campus here in terms of wastewater. So these are the numbers. If you check with either Ben or Jay, or check with Noah DeMichael, they have copies of this. I'm a bit careful about not sharing more emails. It's one of these things. Again, we talk about fine lines of other issues. We get information where I hear you're sharing too many emails. We're getting way too much information, too many emails, stop. And then I get emails saying you're not communicating enough. So we're trying to find that balance for individuals. And I think we're going to err in the direction of giving more information rather than less. But I'm not going to put out another separate email on the wastewater data. It's a pretty complex set of data there. And but again, if anybody wants it, and we can also, I understand St. Mary's County down in Maryland is doing it at a county level. So if anybody's interested, I think if you just Google virus wastewater, you can learn more about the whole process. But if there's anybody who has questions, I'd be glad to answer them. And let's see, the other question was, are we planning to do campus-wide testing before the end of the semester? The answer is no. We have no plans at this point of doing campus-wide testing. I'm very pleased that the county or the state's going to be providing a site here in Allegheny County, so that if students do want to get tested before they go home, they certainly have that ability. So let's get into the questions now. And again, if you have any questions to follow up on this, we'll be glad to answer that. Are there any plans in place to use our remote offerings to increase enrollment? I imagine advertising to students at large universities to try out classes with smaller sizes, especially for difficult to pass courses in STEM fields. We often get students in the summer for this reason. Now they can do it in the spring or fall. Mike, do you want to talk about that at all?
Well, yes. So I think not just with our online offerings in the spring semester, but also with our blended offerings in the spring semester as well. Again, I think, we're unique in the university system in offering a large proportion of blended courses. And there are many students across the system who are interested in having some in-person interactions with their instructors. So I think that comment's right on the mark, that both our increased online offerings, again, in a smaller, more intimate, class size, and also our blended course offerings, both provide really great opportunities for us to potentially pick up some students either for the semester or transfer students going forward. And there are certainly students in Western Maryland who might be going to system schools downstate or other schools downstate who might feel more comfortable being closer at home here. So we're using that as an opportunity to potentially pull those folks into our campus community as well.
Thanks, Mike. And again, I'll also mention again, part of the reason we have Dr. Walker here this year looking at adult extension is also to look at where we might be able to increase our online offerings, not only courses, but degrees and degree completions. So, stay tuned, but we certainly are, I appreciate what the provost is doing and trying to address these issues too. It's a very changing landscape right now in higher education, and a lot of people are trying to figure out what it means. And I think the institutions that become leaders in it are the ones that are going to be the ones that are going to succeed in moving forward. Question, why did you indicate last week on the coffee with the president that you would be willing to talk with the union and then have Leon indicate that you are not willing to talk unless the union accepts the ultimatum of the salary reduction plan? When did Frostburg State University stop showing the community that we can sit at the table together and discuss things to help understand what is happening? I'm going to be careful in how I word this, but we did get a letter from the union, from AFSCME, asking us to return to the table with a series of preconditions on their part. We responded to that, and we will await a response from the union with regard to that. But we are following the guidance of the contract that we have with the union moving forward. Leon, did you want to add anything further to that?
No, not much, Ron. I mean, we sat down and had conversations with the union 5 times. We got to the point where we were just too far apart, and had to make a decision on how we went forward, because we had a certain time frame and we were getting questions from campus as to when the salary reductions were going to start, because the longer it took for the reductions to start, the fewer payrolls would be available for those salary reductions to impact. So we needed to get something done. We were having a problem with reaching agreement. So we had to make a choice, and we did, and we've responded to the union's last request. And that is kind of where we are.
Thank you. Ali says good morning, and good morning, Ali. Glad to see that. Thank you. Hope you're doing well, as everybody else as well. Will increased teleworking be encouraged after Thanksgiving, moving back to where we were in July and early August? I'm very much open to that. I think that's a good question. We'll raise it with the vice presidents where we have opportunities for individuals to telework. I don't see the need, especially if we have, reduction on campus here of students not being here. I think so we will consider it. I'm very, as I say, I'm very open to the idea. If we can make it work, we will do the teleworking. The other question, I think, which is a follow-up in my mind on this, is what the future will be in terms of teleworking. And just for your information, just so you understand, one of the things we were talking about just recently, looking at the design of the Education and Health Sciences building and the offices there, we haven't changed the plans for the offices, but we are now asking ourselves, given what's happened here, we designed those offices for a world that was pre-COVID. What is the post-COVID world going to be? And so I certainly would welcome the governance units, the faculty senate, staff senate, to talk about what they perceive as the future might be, when we return to what the new normal might be. But yes, the answer is we will certainly, I'll talk with the vice presidents. We'll try to get something back to people in early, prior to either Thanksgiving or right in December, about what adjustments we can make until students return at the end of January. Question, can someone review where we can locate the definition of what constitutes an employee falling under the AFSCME? Leon, is that something that should be directed to HR, or do you know if we have a spot?
Basically, I mean, the MOUs for the exempt and non-exempt union are online, and they're available. And in those MOUs, that defines what classifications are considered AFSCME union represented people and which ones aren't. So that's in the MOU itself, and that should be that's available online to anybody who wants to look at it. And if they need to know exactly where it's at, they can contact HR, and HR can send them the link to where the union agreements reside on our website.
Thank you. If the 2% raise happens, can an exception be considered to allow new employees to qualify for the raise because new employees under a year experienced a salary reduction? Leon?
If anyone who's on the payroll as of January 1st would get the 2%. If you're on the payroll, and it would be based on whatever salary, your base salary as of July 1. So basically, if you get the 2%, if you're here January 1st, you would get the 2%.
Good. If the union takes the last offer with pay cuts, the salary reductions the university presented to them to avoid layoffs, is that acceptable to you? Leon, I think so, yes, isn't it? That's
I think it is.
Okay, again, the same question again about the negotiations and statements. Again, there are letters going up and back between the union and the university, and so I really can't comment more than what we've done already. We are willing, we've sent our responses. Again, the question, Stacy, I think I answered the question about, yes, we will look at teleworking, staff teleworking opportunities moving forward. Any idea when the Fairground Testing Center will be open? I'm going to look to my 2 PR people to shake their heads yes or no. I don't think the date's been set, but I think it's going to be at least a week away, if at least from what I understood in the paper today. If you read the Cumberland Times News today, Good Times News, times-news.com, there's an article in it. I think there is some statement about when they think they might be able to have it up, but I don't think it's in the next few days. It's going to take a while to get it set up. From a staff member sent to me, if we had indications of a spike in wastewater 3 weeks ago, why wasn't campus notified? That was part of what we saw when we saw the increase in the virus. And again, at that point, we didn't know. That's one indicator. Other indicators were not showing an increase. And so, you know, the actions, there are, I think, at least according to Jeff Graham, who is our person that's working, there's 10 different indicators that we're monitoring on a regular basis. And let me get into that just very briefly. Again, I know we put a lot of emails out. I think we're not a lot, but we put some reports out. What happened last Thursday was we were getting conflicting information. And there's a recovery team of about 8 or 9 people, maybe 10 people that meet at least twice a week. And quite frankly, oftentimes meet in addition to those 2 formal meetings on Monday and Thursday mornings. And a week ago, yesterday on Thursday, they called me into the meeting and said, we're getting some conflicting information in our data. We had seen the spike in the data on the week of October 18. We saw an increase in the FSU surveillance testing the week of October 18th, with the caveat that that testing was not campus-wide. It was a selection of athletes, student athletes that were tested for our NCAA guidelines. And it was an increase in the, and also students who were coming to the Brady Health Center because they were showing symptoms. And those numbers were seeming to drop the following week. We didn't see the same increase. We didn't get the same indication that we were going to see it would continue to go up, but yet the health center reported they had a lot of, and I should say, again, I keep using the word a number of students who were coming in self-reporting that they had the virus. The tricky part of that is we don't know if students who are getting negative tests are reporting the same thing to us. So as the chancellor and I talked about, we don't know what the denominator of tests are. We just have the positive ones coming in. We also had an instance where we saw an increase in people going into the Quality Inn. We also saw an increase in symptomatic students asking to be tested at health center, to the point that we were worried that they may get overwhelmed in terms of the request to be able to handle it, given the size of their operation. And the health department indicated to us that they were not quite sure they could provide the contact tracing they had been providing previously because of the increase in the county. That led us to have really a fairly lengthy discussion a week ago Thursday about, you know, what should we do? Should we take some action? Because while all the indicators were not pointing up, some were pointing down, some were pointing up. Just in terms of being prudent and cautious, we decided we better take some action, because we do know if you wait too long, sometimes it's hard to get that curve to turn back down again. So we did what we thought was the responsible thing of going to the pause in classroom instruction. That's what a number of institutions across the country have done, higher education institutions. We decided not to close the residence halls because we had no indication that there was any outbreak in the residence halls. We also did not have any indication that there was the virus on campus, that these cases were being caused by on-campus activities. And so we decided to take the pause to see what our numbers look like. We also did another wastewater recording on Wednesday. And what we did on that recording is we did 2 samples. We did one from on campus and one from off campus. Both of those came back this week at a low level, levels similar to what we had at the end of September. It was on that graph that I just showed you. So we decided to take the pause to see what was happening Thursday, Friday, over the weekend, and on Monday. And Monday morning, the team met again. We met twice, and the decision, the recommendation from the group was, we seem to have had things under control. It was probably appropriate to go back to face-to-face instruction. And what we did is I then talked with the chancellor and gave him our reading of the different statistics we had, that the wastewater had gone down, that we had a positivity rate of FSU administered tests of that week of the 26th. Now, remember, that week is different than the previous week. That week included the campus-wide surveillance testing, and that rate was 3.8%. So we saw a significant drop back. So we said to ourselves, okay, let's move forward with returning to class on Thursday. And that was the decision we made. We're still monitoring things very closely. The number of positive cases, the number of people in the Quality Inn that are being either isolated or quarantined is within our range of where we want to operate. I don't know the exact number, but we've leveled off in that number. And so we felt it was safe to reopen the campus and move forward. So again, when we have a statistic that shows a result, we have to compare it to the other data points we're looking at. Wastewater by itself is not going to tell us everything we need to know, but we did see last week a jump of number of statistics. If we had seen Monday that, again, we still had this uptick in number of cases, that Brady Health Center had overwhelming number of students coming in for help, we would have stayed closed. We would have kept the in-class, we would have stayed online. But that was clearly not the case when we saw the data from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Hope that helps. I also want to respond somewhat to students that are asking the questions. We are dealing with instances where we do know there were a couple parties of Halloween. And again, students need, I'm asking, everybody really needs, I know we were choking a little bit before. I understand the term from the governor now is wear the damn mask. You need to be wearing your masks. This community, it is one now where the virus is very prevalent in this community, and we are part of the community. And as a result, people can bring the virus back to campus, or bring it back to their residence halls, or bring it back to people they're living with if they don't take precautions. And so we really are asking students, and I know Student Affairs, Dr. Travis and Dean Crow are working with students that have been violating the social compact. We did get information of a couple Halloween parties that were not appropriately distanced or with masks, and we're dealing with that because students that are attending those parties are putting everybody at jeopardy, and we need to be careful because of the virus in the community. Enough of, thank you for listening to my lecture. Okay, this is a good one, Mike. You like this one? I like it. Can we keep the fall academic schedule like this for years to come?
Yeah, that follow up with an email about what exactly that means. Do you mean the academic schedule in terms of calendar? Do you mean the academic schedule in terms of modalities? I'd be curious as to what the thought is there.
I will say, Mike, and I think you'll agree that what we're hearing in the academy across the country is there will be changes. The idea of going back to the 15-week, 3 times a week, 50 minutes, 75-minute things, I think is all going to be reviewed. And again, please understand a lot of what we do, we are under accreditation requirements, and not only that, expectations from the Maryland Department of Higher Ed to what we can and can't do. But I think this virus has caused, first of all, universities to respond much more quickly than they're accustomed to doing. And I think it's also going to force us to have to think about what we want to see moving forward in terms of what makes sense for the universities, in terms of the different groups of learners. I mean, we got the 18-year-old high school student coming in, you have the transfer student from community colleges or other colleges, and you have the adult learner. We've got three populations there, one of which we're serving in many ways, the healthcare professionals that are working healthcare professionals. I would put our programs up against anybody in the state, in the sense that our PA programs, our nurse practitioner program, our RN to BSN, we should take pride in the fact that we're turning out the third largest number of BSN students in the state system. So we're doing a lot in those areas. Can we do more? Probably. The question becomes, we need to be probably selective about how we go about approaching it and doing it in a thoughtful fashion. I'm concerned about some of my students being unable to get courses they need because of the requirement that students in blended class must attend the in-person class. Can this be something professors decide individually for their classes instead of a blanket rule?
Yeah, so I'll take this one, Ron. So we've been communicating for 4 to 6 weeks now that there's an expectation that students will be taking courses in the scheduled format. And again, that's for a number of reasons. Again, this fall, right, at the beginning of the semester, and really, up until 4 to 6 weeks into the semester, instructors and individual students were making agreements about shifting the modality. And maybe for a transition semester like this, that I appreciate that willingness to make allowances for students and accommodate. But that did lead to some very significant, unanticipated consequences, related to, number one, tracking students and data integrity, right? With just one concrete example of how that plays out. If a student schedule indicates that they're here on campus and they're called, into one of the random surveillance tests, and when we contact the student and they say, well, no, I'm not in fact on campus like my schedule indicates, I'm at home in Baltimore. Again, that's just one example of, the problems that with respect to the data that was involved there. Also, I get communications throughout the semester, right? My faculty member and I made some kind of agreement about me being able to do the course this way, and now they're saying we can't do it that way. So we've got, those kinds of problems arising as well. And also, I think, there's a real, coordination problem. And again, we were hearing this at the beginning of the semester too, right? Faculty members would say, I have a student who's coming to me and they say that 3 of their professors have already agreed to let them take the course online. If you let me take it online too, then I can go home. And the faculty member feels pressured to make that allowance. So again, the blanket rule avoids that coordination problem, to the benefit of the faculty. When the schedules were made, right, through the deans and the department chairs, again, I asked that scheduling reflect, the anticipated demands from the students. So again, I very much hope that departments and programs, would have put some thought into which courses are being offered online and which ones are being offered in a blended modality. And again, basing their schedule on courses rather than particular faculty members and their preferred modalities. In the end, right, it might be the case that programs are going to have to think about substitutions in some of these cases to address some of these issues. And again, it might be the case that if a department or program is, seeing a very large size demand for an online section of a course and there currently is none, then perhaps the department chair, the program coordinator needs to talk to the dean about offering an online section of the course or transitioning a blended section to an online course. But again, we want to do this in an intentional and systematic way, and not on an ad hoc basis with individual faculty members. So again, I appreciate the concern, but I really don't want this to be addressed, on the individual instructor level. but really on the department level, again, with feedback from the college team.
Thanks, Mike. And again, I want to thank the faculty that have accommodated students as much as they have. And we know we put you in a difficult position early this semester in trying to pivot early on. I think it's incumbent on, and I agree with what Mike's position on this has been, and I think it's incumbent on part of our students to make a decision about whether they want to be here in the spring or not. And if they're not going to be here in the spring, I think Mike's office is willing to work as much as possible to help accommodate that with courses that they can take either here or courses that we could get to transfer in that are online. But I don't think it's respectful of the faculty time, as well as I would say the time of the other students to start creating, what ifs, one-offs of an issue here, because we don't need, again, if I were an instructor and had 25 students, I wouldn't want to have 25 different plans out there. I think it doesn't do well for the students nor for the class as a group and moving forward. So, we'll work with the students. Jennifer, thank you for that question, but if we can find ways of accommodating the students. But I really do think at some point students do need to make a decision. Do they want to be here in the spring in person, or do they not? And if they don't want to be here, we'll work with them. But we can't, I don't think, be in a situation where I'll be here for a while and then I'm not going to be here for a while, and things. It creates too much havoc and asks too much of the faculty during this period of time and the other students to make that happen. Since our admissions counselors are leaving, is there a plan to pull other staff members to help out in that area until we have the individuals on board? We are looking at that. We are advertising for positions right now. In fact, I talked with Dr. Walker. The initial set of interviews are underway for the admissions counselors. Ian, you're right, this is a huge issue. We're constantly talking about budget cuts. As you know, and I've been publicizing this quite a bit, our numbers in terms of applications, even in this situation, are up. Our number of applications are up, our number of acceptances are up. Deposits, although it's very early, are up over where they were a year ago. I'm trying to really get a sense of what the landscape looks like. According to talking with both Dr. Walker and with Bill Kraus, our interim director of admissions, we're booked through the end of November for students, for families, small groups of families that want to take tours of the campus. So there is a renewed interest in coming to Frostburg. I'm not quite sure what to attribute all of it to. Is it partly people wanting to stay closer to home because of the virus? Again, with all the things going on at the university and the concerns you hear, there are other schools that, in fact, are not allowing students back at all on campus. We tried to accommodate as many students who wanted to come back as we possibly could. I hope the word of mouth is getting out that, yes, Frostburg is willing to work with the students individually. So that may be helping us. We are doing a lot more. We are moving further ahead on document imaging. I understand the RFPs are back. Part of our difficulties in the past have been we were passing paper around and doing a lot of work that could have been automated in terms of technology. We're moving quickly to get that done. So, we'll stay on top of it. But yes, we are watching the admissions office carefully. What is an MOU? We like acronyms. That's a memo of understanding. You sometimes may hear me when I'm talking about the salary stuff with the negotiations called the CBA. That's called the collective bargaining agreement. And we did get a note from Lisa Hirsch here that the non-exempt and exempt union agreements are located on the HR page under HR resources, union information. This is a good question here, not that they're all not good, but this one is, will there be an evaluation of COVID factors to determine whether students should return to campus as we did this fall or completely online? If so, what factors will be used to make that determination? The answer is yes, there will be an evaluation. The trend right now in the country is people are planning to do what they did in the fall. So the one exception is Hopkins. Hopkins was online in the fall. They're planning to bring students back in the spring. But across the country, most schools are planning to stay with what they did in the fall. That would be our inclination. But what we're going to be doing is monitoring the conditions that we see in January, December and January, to see, again, whether or not there's another surge in the virus. I do not want to get into the position of bringing people back for a week and then closing the institution, sending people home. So we're going to monitor it. And I will tell you, there's considerable discussions going on at the university system on this specific topic. So when schools do make decisions like we did for the fall, we were asked to explain for instance, why are we starting 3 weeks early or 2 weeks early? Why are we doing the surveillance testing every 2 weeks? Those questions were asked of every institution in the system to understand that what we were doing and that it had been a thoughtful process. And part of the reason, again, why we went in August was that, there was a fear with the cold weather, we would see an increase in the virus in coming back. So we'll be monitoring it in December and January as well and keep the campus informed like we did before. Is there a way for the staff and faculty to take a vote on the salary reductions? Maybe we would all vote to take the cuts and seeing others being laid off. That would be a question I would say to take to the faculty and staff senates. And, again, if there is a proposal where the faculty and staff want to increase their reductions further, that would certainly be something that, we'll consider. Okay, we answered that question. The recent FAQ about the negotiations was fantastic. How can we ensure that this type of detail is shared faster? I apologize for the fact it took us so long. You need to understand we have 2 PR people working, and they are reaching the point where they're the 2 main ones, at least, helping us. And they're reaching the point when they see me coming, they go the other way down the hall. But I'm glad that information was helpful. We'll try to keep information out there. Again, for us, part of the decisions are, I want to make sure we're providing as much communication. And again, we get concerned. I get comments that, you're not communicating at all. And then some saying, please stop with the emails. We're going to continue as much as we can to give the information that we can. Thank you. Leon, this might be something for you. If union members are giving up the exact same amount of money in furlough days instead of salary reductions, why would the university not consider furloughs instead? Mike, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. I mean, there are challenges with Fair Labor Standards Act as to how we can do furloughs and how that can be spread across the number of periods. The previous question talked about our frequently asked questions, and that is one of the items that is addressed in some detail, in those FAQs, because I knew that this type of question, people have asked that. But, on advice, we've talked to the AG's office about the furloughs versus salary reductions, and we were cautioned against doing that. And there are some very specific reasons that's addressed in our FAQs that swirls around the Department of Labor and the Fair Labor Standards Act. So I guess I would direct, since I don't have that in front of me, I would direct that since those FAQs are now out there, I would direct the person to read the FAQ about that. I mean, it's probably 4 paragraphs, so it's there in some detail.
Let me add too, because the question said if union members are giving up the exact same amount of money in furlough days instead of salary reductions, why would the university not consider it? That was not what the union's last proposal did not come up with the same amount of money, nor was it even close to the amount of money that we had anticipated from the union. So the proposal was not one where we were getting the exact same amount of money in furlough days instead of salary reductions. If the union accepts the salary reduction plan, would all the employees then receive the additional 3 holidays in December? That was part of our plan that we put forward. So the answer would be yes. If the individual travels out of the state country, what is the policy for the university for the employee to quarantine? We are just following state regulations right now. We have not implemented anything additional beyond what the state is requiring. We are certainly discouraging out of the country travel. But again, we're following the guidance that is for all citizens of the state of Maryland. And again, we recognize the fact that a number of the people on this call probably do live out of state. If you live in Pennsylvania or West Virginia, and that clearly is one of the exceptions that the governor has in his guidelines for individuals. As far as pay cuts, you have said multiple times that those at the top are giving back 10%. Can you tell us how many people are included in those? One, me. I'm at 10%. Leon, do you know what's the is it 7.9% or what's the next level? It's around 8%, is it not?
Yeah, next level's around 8%. And then then it goes down. It kind of
Right.
goes down from there.
Yep. What do we do if we have another sharp uptick during finals? Would the provost advise giving incompletes as appropriate? There's a question for you, Mike.
Yeah, so our office is working on providing some guidance around issues related to finals in general. So you can look for a communication coming out probably early next week related to that. I know that a number of faculty are planning to give in-person final exams that are in the blended modality, and again. Fingers crossed that we continue to be able to offer in-person instruction and interactions for the next 2.5 weeks through final exams. But again, we do want to have some contingency plans, and instructors should start to think about contingency plans in the event that we did have to shift online potentially for finals. So let me do say, right? I mean, there are a fair number of students who the prospect of online final exams is not something that they're welcoming. So I think many of our students really are hoping that they're going to be able to complete their in-person work here as well. But again, we'll be getting you we'll get some guidance around a number of issues related to finals that faculty have passed on, and look for that communication early next week.
How are we ensuring that isolating students at the Quality Inn isn't contributing to community spread? My understanding is that they are staying in the Quality Inn. If anybody has information that they are not staying there, let us know. But they're being transported there by the university. Meals are being delivered there. That is the concept of isolation and quarantine, is that they are to remain in there until they are cleared by our health center to be able to return to campus. And again, for those, my understanding is for those in isolation that are those that have the virus, it's 10 days from when they've been tested. And then for those in quarantine, they need to stay there 14 days, I believe it is, in quarantine in the Quality Inn. And again, that's for students who live on campus, including Edgewood Commons. We do not have the ability to isolate students who live off campus. And again, we still find a number of students decide if they do test positive, and especially if they've been asked to quarantine, that they decide to move home for that period of time. I saw you shaking your head, Vice President Travis. Did I get that right, as far as you know?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. What is the college doing about the article that was in the bottom line in the Washington Post about the student that had COVID-19? Artie, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, the article in the paper may have had some misinformation based on the information that was shared by the student and or by other outside individuals. Please note that when the student tested positive for the virus, all of the appropriate protocols were in place. Again, the Brady Health Center is only an ambulatory, is not an ambulatory location. Everything that was supposed to happen happened once once the positive results were posted on the website for that student. There's a lot of other information or misinformation that was out there. But again, we can't share with you who the student was. Of course, it's in the paper who it is, but we also have to make sure that we are protecting their rights of privacy. But everything was once it was a positive test downloaded, everything was in place and protocol was followed.
Let me add too, because I think that's very important, that we are working closely with the health department and they're the ones doing the contact tracing. It's not being done by campus. We have contact tracers that are hired by the Maryland Department of Health. And if they come to us and see that there is a cluster or an outbreak in a residence hall, we do monitor that. We do see where they are, and we ask the question of, if we see X number of cases in a particular residence hall, what can we attribute it to? Is it something in the residence hall? Is it something that was done off campus? What might be the result? What might have been the cause? But we rely on the health department contact tracers as well. And they will let us know if they see a particular outbreak in what they see in a particular residence hall and tell us what actions we need to take. So we're not doing this all on our own. Across the country, there have been instances where residence halls have been quarantined because contact tracers have identified enough cases that it seems to be something within a residence hall. As far as I know, we have not had that instance from the health department. I ask weekly when we meet, and I talk with both Dr. Graham and our healthcare director, Katie Morale, do we have any instances that I should be aware of that are linked to things on campus? And again, as you might suspect, many of these instances have been linked to things off campus. If people continue to wear the masks and do the social distancing, we've taken a number of precautions to try to keep the campus as safe as possible. And so we'll continue to monitor that, but we are not in a position, again, we're following what the contact tracers and the health department is recommending to us as well. We're not in this alone. And I do want to shout out to the health department. They've been working well with us. They've been learning about what a university does. It's been an educational, it's been mutually educational in that we're learning the things that they want us to know, and we're explaining to them things we're doing here that some other campuses may or may not be doing, so they have an understanding of how we're using those indicators. And we do meet at least, I think Katie meets at least once a week with the health department, and when we need to, we have multiple meetings. Observation here, the Washington Post had an article about FSU in yesterday's paper about concerns over safety. The New York Times reported that we had 98 cases compared to 454 cases at Salisbury. Didn't see anything further on that. Well, we'll worry about our campus, but again, we're not unique in terms of some of the things that are going on elsewhere. And again, I think we've been fortunate for so long that the virus was not as prevalent in this community. It's here now in a much higher level, and we need to take extra caution. One of my colleagues yesterday was talking about the fact, think back in June, we were going to the grocery stores at 6 o'clock in the morning to shop. We had the aisles lined in one direction. Everybody was being very, very careful. Restaurants were closed. The virus wasn't as prevalent here as it was in other parts of the state. Now it is in this area, and we're not acting at the same level of caution we were doing in June. So please, I encourage everybody, for your own safety, take those cautions seriously.
And Ron, can I make another point?
Sure.
This was, part of that official also said that students were moving off campus in droves. We have officially received officially received key checkouts for 2 individual students in our residence halls, and 4 other students have moved their materials out of the residence halls. So there's not a mass exodus from the residence halls, but like I said, only 2 have officially checked out of the residence halls so far this semester, since over the last couple of weeks. Only 2, and 4 have moved some of their stuff out, but only 2 have officially checked out.
Thank you. How can employees covered by the union that doesn't agree with what the union is doing avoid being affected by their bad choices? That's the question. I can't provide any further information on that. I would say talk with the union. Do bargaining union employees have to take administrative leave 12/18, 21/22? The university is open these days, correct? Leon, that's a question to you.
Yes, bargaining unit employees do have to take leave, basically accrued leave for 12/18, 12/21, and 12/22. So there will be accrued leave, annual leave, or they can work for those days. The university will be open.
Thank you. This is a very good question. Should we address students walking around in the academic buildings without masks on? And if so, how would we do that? I'm doing the same thing. Quite frankly, when they see the president coming, people tend to pull their mask up if they're not wearing it. But please ask them just gently, as best you can, to say, please wear your mask. And I think I'm hoping most of the students will accommodate that. We have pushed very hard for the dining halls to get that enforced. I do know the coaches reached out to all of their players to tell them, yes, please wear the masks. I would also encourage faculty, if you feel comfortable doing this, this would be very helpful. If you're meeting with students in class, ask them to show you on their phone, and I'll show you again on their COVID thing, that they've got the reduced risk. Okay, just ask at the beginning of class. What we noticed is faculty and staff have been good about doing the check-ins. Not surprisingly, as you might suspect, students have been a bit lax on filling out that every morning. Just doing that forces people to remind and think about symptoms. And we do know that some of the cases that we had and where it looked like there was a social spread of the virus, people were showing symptoms and didn't take the actions that we recommended they did, which is not to be around other people and to immediately go to contact the health center for advice. So anything you can do, I try to ask people when I see them walking around campus gently, please wear your mask. We need to do that continuously, unfortunately, until we're through this. And also when you're off campus, personally, I'm finding myself in stores. I'm being very selective. I'm going back to my June behavior of going through stores, because if any of you are out there walking around, you see people who are not wearing masks. Frankly, I think, and I don't like attributing behaviors to people, but some people that really are proud of the fact they're not wearing masks, and that's not doing anything for this community. So please ask students, if you see them nicely, if you're really having a problem where people don't want to do it, let your supervisor, if you're a faculty member, let your department chair or dean know if it's a problem in your class, and we'll find some appropriate responses through judicial work. And I know that we did that in Chesapeake, where we did have some students who were not wearing masks have been reported to judicial through Dean Crow for review. So, please let us know and ask people. Most people have been pretty good about doing it once you ask them. So it's for everybody's safety. FSU has chosen to lay off the only employee in the student mailroom. Is there any plan to provide help for student workers that are left to work in the mailroom or accommodate those who are in class during the few hours the mailroom is open now? The layoffs don't take place until January, but I don't know, Leon, do you have anything? That's your area, I assume.
The person.
Oh, it's Artie's? That's
Artie's area.
Okay.
The person in the mailroom has chosen to the person in the mailroom is no longer in the mailroom at this point in time by choice. The staff and residence life at this point in time has already made plans to fill in those hours in the mailroom. They have been reduced, but they will be reduced over the next 2 weeks. And our hope is that it doesn't impact negatively on our students. But the mailroom is short at this point in time, but we've made a correction. And while I have the mic, let me retract one of my earlier comments about misinformation. I should say about the article that there was some information that was not all disclosed in the story, based on the fact that we can't respond to some information. But again, I didn't mean to say misinformation. I meant to say the entire story was not out there. And there's two sides to every story.
Thank you. I think I answered this question already. If the bargaining unit agrees to the latest offer, yes, there will be 3 days of administrative holiday for those individuals. Let's see, make sure I haven't missed anything. There was a question about athletics here. I may have skipped over it. Since our athletic programs have been responsible for most of the cases. First, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know those numbers. I will look at that at the end of the semester. What have we learned to ensure that athletics does not jeopardize academics at this institution? We'll get back to you on that. I think that's a very good question. I don't know offhand. The athletes have been tested more than anybody else on campus. And I will tell you that the Mountain East Conference, the presidents have been having meetings. I'm part of a subcommittee of that with 4 presidents looking at what are we going to do in the spring with athletic events. The plan right now is to do quite a bit more testing if we are going to do any sort of athletic competition. There is a ambitious plan to play all the sports in the spring. That is, the fall sports that we didn't do will all be played in the spring, along with the winter sports as well as the spring sports. Quite frankly, that's going to be very ambitious. Part of that, again, is being driven, I think, and this is personal opinion, you know, the NCAA, it gets its revenue from March Madness. And so Division I basketball becomes a very important function for the NCAA. We lost that last year. Again, they're looking at it from a financial viewpoint. We're trying to keep athletes safe. The NCAA has changed guidelines quite a bit over the last several months to increasing testing, reducing testing. Now they're looking at antigen tests, which are the rapid tests. The accuracy of those are under consideration. So I guess I'm giving you a long-winded response to the fact that we will take a look. I want to see what the percentage of athletes, students who had the virus was relative to the overall population of the campus, what we've learned from it, and we will certainly, if I don't give you a response to that in January and we come back, remind me, please, and I'll try to get an answer. Won't have an answer in the next 2 weeks, but we do want to take a moment to look back at our data to understand what we've learned from the semester we lived in. Somebody glad we did the pre-Thanksgiving? Yes, I'm glad we're finishing up at Thanksgiving as well for the students and the faculty. Going back down. Is there a way for students to know which online courses will be meeting synchronously versus asynchronously this spring? That's, Mike, your question.
Yes, so synchronous online courses have meeting dates, days and times indicated. Asynchronous courses don't. Again, synchronous online courses have meeting days and times indicated in pause. Asynchronous online courses do not. Mm-hmm.
Is there any financial assistance to help colleges if they want to send acceptance letters with a small welcome box? The answer is yes. We'll take a look at that. We have some ideas also of getting some things virtually online for recruiting purposes since people can't attend, come to visit campus. We'll have more information on that, but yes, we certainly would consider that. Okay. Question, why would the percentages not be more together, meaning those on the higher end VPs, deans, giving back more than 7.5% when those who make below 100,000 will be hurt in the same way? Just curious as to why we not think about giving back 8.5%. The average, if we did it across the institution, would have been 3.2%. Okay, so when a person is taking a 7.5, they're taking 3 times what is needed. We tried to stay with a plan that was similar to what we've done in the past, and not, we have a graded version all the way across the campus. Again, the advice was given me during the summer, but also the culture of the institution is that the institution is willing to everybody to share in the pain of the salary reduction. We did set it so that I had the highest, the vice presidents are the second highest, and it was graded. And we came up with one where many of the people are actually less than the 3.2% that would have been if we just divided it by everybody. So we did protect a lot of people at the lower end for that. There's a question about travel for personal reasons outside the state and country. I don't know this question about the teleworking opportunities. If somebody is traveling, if you're violating the recommendations of the governor or the guidelines of the governor, that's an issue we'll have to deal with. If you're following the guidelines, we'll work with you on what we need to in terms of travel, either out of state or out of the country. Many states now have put restrictions on people from Maryland because of the increase in the virus. Okay. When the writer reports misinformation, why is there no correction, retraction, or other accountability to that writer? We are working with our PR people to try to correct information where we can. We have responded to information in the bottom line as well as the Washington Post. Again, there's a question about the MOU. I would recommend people go to the MOU with regard to what rights there are for union members and non-union members. Let's see, are there more questions below that? I'm getting stuck here. Is there more questions there, Liz? I'm looking, for those of you here, I have people here helping me make sure I get through the questions, and I'm seeing whether or not we have any more questions.
That's the last one.
Thank you. Okay. So again, I want to thank everybody. It's been a rough several weeks, but we've gotten through it. And again, people working through this. Please be safe. Be very careful in the community. I think this area, you know, again, the county is one where we have to be very careful what's going on. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to president at frostburg.edu. There are a number of people who are not shy, and I appreciate it. I try to get back to as many questions as I possibly can. I do read those that are forwarded to me, and so we do get through those. And I want to thank the executive staff too. I think having Artie and Mike and Leon on the call to answer questions has been helpful. We'll plan on doing another one of these before the end of the semester. Remember, I think in 2 weeks we're planning to do a fireworks. The students have asked for it. I think we need some good things going on, and I'm going to be posting again, continuing some more good information about things that are going on in the university. Just want to let you know, in case you didn't see it in the last article, Hitchens in several buildings are vibrating because construction is going on in education and health sciences. The Board of Public Works just approved the next package of construction, so things are moving forward for the campus. Things are looking good, and please enjoy the nice warm weather while it lasts. So have a good day and good weekend. And thanks for being part of this.